Alright Reds, Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here, and this is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online. Think back to when you first fell in love with sports. Was it scoring that goal in football, or maybe it was running faster, hitting harder, and playing smarter than you ever had before? As kids, every game was a new challenge, a new chance to learn and to grow. But what about as adults? Do we still push our limits, learn new strategies, or has the routine of life sidelined our passion? Just like a skilled football coach can transform a football team, therapy can re-energize and refocus your life's goals. Whether you're aiming to regain your former athletic glory or simply want to find joy in your weekend league, BetterHelp is here to support your mental fitness. With BetterHelp's online therapy, you're getting more than just advice. You're gaining strategies to manage stress, enhance focus, and set goals, just like in sports. It's convenient, flexible, and tailored to fit into your training schedule, however packed it might be. Signing up is as simple as lacing up your boots. Fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with one of over 5,000 therapists in the UK. And if you need to switch tactics, changing therapists is easy and free. Rediscover your passion for the game with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/index today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/index. It's time to play your best game yet. BetterHelp, because everyone deserves to be at the top of their game.
There's no better feeling than a personal win, and the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you do just that. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Now, 2 Pigeons and Coach Prime bemoaning the fact you can stream DirecTV satellite-free.
These humans get the biggest college football games on DirecTV.
And we don't even get a satellite dish.
Enough squawking.
It's Coach Prime.
Bring it in. Sure, they could get all that college football without a dish, but you still got your passion, your drive, your resolve, your...
incredible career as a football icon?
No, that's me.
Stream the biggest college football games. No satellite dish. Visit DirecTV.com.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to anfieldindexpro.com and get started today.
Hello, welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
Delighted to welcome you back to your fold after many, many days off.
Yes, I had 3 days off last week. And by the way, I didn't actually, because I did do the Bologna game in the middle of the week. So technically, I only had Tuesday and Thursday off. So, you know, still a far better track record than yourself, who has at least 4 days off every week. We are going to pick our team of the season so far. You can tell it's an international break. We're going to pick our team of the season so far, have a wee chat about whether or not we think it's sustainable for those players to maintain that form across the year, and then we'll see what time we have left to do anything else. So, Mr. Matchett, I ask you, who is your goalkeeper in the Premier League team of the season thus far?
So, I could go into like a big spiel here and sort of discuss the pros and cons of a whole bunch of players and all that. But I'm going to tell you, I don't really think there have been too many good goalkeepers so far this season. I think there's an obvious candidate just because he's had an impact in a couple of matches, which is David Raya. But beyond him, I don't think there's been too many consistent keepers so far. Like, Alisson has obviously been good when he's played, but he's already on his second injury. We're only 7 games in. Andreas Iniesta has been busy, and he's had a couple of good games, actually, but he's also conceded a boatload. I don't really see there's too many really good performers. Martinez has had a couple of stinkers. Vicario had a couple of really, really poor games. Ederson started the season off very dodgy. So I think Raya, just by process of elimination of everyone else, to be honest.
Yeah, so I was thinking exactly the same, because I had it in my head that Ali had missed a couple of games, but he has played in 6. So he's played 5 2/3 of Premier League games. But Raya has been really good for Arsenal, and Ali hasn't, to be fair, had a ton to do for us. So I think I'll agree with you. I think I'll go with David Raya. I do want to give a mention, though, to Matt Sells of Forest, who I actually think has been really good this year. Now, I'm not a fan of Matt Sells, but when you look at their defensive record, joint second along with Arsenal, only 6 goals conceded through 7 games, only lost once. I think that's very, very impressive, considering there's been quite a bit of chopping and changing in the team in front of him. I think he's been a consistent presence, and I think he's done really well. So, honourable mention there to Matt Sells of Nottingham Forest. Right, into the defensive line. Right back, who are you going with here? Because there's probably a couple of candidates, and maybe a few that we thought might be candidates who haven't quite performed to the level that they were expected to, or, in the case of Ben White, have lost his place in the Arsenal team.
I think this is a fairly tricky one, to be honest, because most of the ones who I've seen play quite well have actually been of the slightly lower down the table teams. Like, I think, Sugawara has been fairly decent at times at Southampton, but obviously he's part of a defence which has been really, really lax, has been guilty of obviously giving up lots of easy chances and giving away possession and so on and so forth. James Justin has been more than reasonable, I think, but again, you're looking at a defence which comes under pressure and doesn't necessarily hold out an awful lot. Munoz hasn't been that good. Pedro Porro's been hit and miss, I think it's fair to say. I don't think Trent's been at his best in more than maybe 3 games, something like that. So I'm tempted to go somewhere along the lines of maybe Kenny Tete. He had a good start to the season. Maybe him, or God, not too many more. I don't think I'd go for Veltman, even though he's been a big starter. Araujo's not played enough. I'll stick with him for now.
Kenny Tete?
Yeah.
Okay. Like you, I think there's been some really good performers in the mid-table group. James Justin definitely, I think, has been very good for Leicester, and obviously came up with the 2 big goals against Arsenal, but ultimately it wasn't a losing effort. But given I didn't give them a player for the goalkeeping position, I'm going to go to Nottingham Forest, and I'm going to go Ola Aina. Now, he has played some games at left back, but he's played at right back a bunch. I think he's been excellent. Played in all 7 games. I'm going to go Ola Aina at right back. Left back.
You go with yours.
I'm going to go Josko Gvardiol. I think he's been City's best player so far. I know he has played, I think, 1 game at centre-back, but he is primarily their left-back. I think he's been exceptionally good. I think he's the one part of that defensive line you put faith in, because Walker looks a mess. The centre-backs, they don't look comfortable for whatever reason. Maybe it's not having Rodri in front of them, but I think he's been a consistently good performer at left-back, so I'm going to go Josko Gvardiol.
Fair enough. I was tempted to go for Cucurella up until maybe the last game or 2. I think he started the season really well.
5 yellow cards in 7 games is a hell of an achievement for him and Wesley Fofana. But when you watch Chelsea play, though, Karl, because I meant to ask you about this the other day, they have the most yellow cards in the league. I think it's 25 yellow cards through 7 games. But they don't strike me as a team that foul a ton. Is it the Pep Guardiola cynical fouls out of possession to kill counterattacks against you type thing, and refs are just punishing them more for it because their manager, while bald, is not Pep Guardiola?
I mean, It could be. I'm not going to rule it out entirely, but how many are they on, or how many per game are they on if we remove the absolute farce of a 1-0 against Bournemouth, where I think there was like about 72 in the match?
That's a fair point. How many yellow cards was there in that game? That was
it 14, a record 14, something like that?
It was,
and there was 19 fouls in the game, something stupid.
So Chelsea had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players booked, 5 starters, 2 subs, and Bournemouth had 6 starters. Yeah, 6 starters. So 13 yellow cards in total, and there were 25 fouls. That's Chelsea had 8. Hang on, how did they have 8? 1, 2, 3.
There were a couple of yellows also shown to people on the bench, like coaches. I'm not sure if they would be included.
There was 14 yellow cards given in total for 25 fouls. That's a remarkably strong record. Given that Chelsea committed 9 fouls in the game and got 8 yellow cards, like you said, a couple of them were people on the bench for complaining. That's quite impressive. But even taking that out, that's still 70 yellow cards across the 6 games, which is near on 3 a game. It's still quite a few.
Yeah, I mean, they're still obviously improving, and certainly going forward, as we said, they have the quality and they're getting a bit more cohesion there, but they're still a bit erratic defensively, and that does lead to quite a lot of scurrying back, let's say. So I'm sure a few is from that. I think.
So who you got then?
I think overall I'm going to go with Luca Dean. He's had quite a strong start to the season. Thought maybe he would lose his place this year after they signed Maatsen, but not so far. It's been pretty solid defensively, so I'll go with him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He remains a really good crosser of the ball, and his set pieces have obviously always been on point. Centre-back is easy for me. It's Virgil van Dijk and it's Ibu Konate, and I actually don't think it's close with anyone else, but I'm happy to hear suggestions to the contrary if you have any.
Wout Thijs and Yannick Vestergaard. I think Van Dijk is a comfortable one, to be fair, by a long, long way, like you say. I'd be willing to consider if there were alternatives to Konate, just to, set aside any potential bias that we were having, but I haven't seen too much actual evidence of it in terms of real consistency. Like, I think Maxence Lacroix has started quite well, but he's obviously only 3-4 games in, something like that.
Yeah, he looks good. He looks like a Liverpool centre back, big, tall, quick, powerful in the air.
Mm. I think Zavadi's been decent at Bournemouth, but again, you're talking a big distance between decent and near perfect, which is effectively where Van Dijk has been. United have played far too many defenders for any of them to really be considered, and still the best one is Johnny Evans, it appears. So I think if you're going to say not a pairing, you'd probably go Gabriel. I think he's been the only individual standout that I'd say I've seen 4 or 5 times has been really, really good. So I'm happy to go for him just for a bit of difference, but obviously pairing-wise, there is only one because it's the best defensive record.
I think Milinkovic at Forest has been quite good.
Yeah.
And Murillo has been good. They were both excellent at Anfield.
Again, you're talking a pairing there. I think definitely valid.
That's the thing. They've been good as a pair. I think Van de Ven has largely been good, but he wasn't great against Newcastle, and he wasn't great in the second half against Brighton, and ultimately they lost both of those games, in part because of defensive errors that he made. I think Pau Torres has looked quite good this year. He's only played 2 games, but the difference he makes to his team, as opposed to the player that comes in when he's not there, might be the starkest in the league, and that's Jarrett Branthwaite at Everton. When he's there, Everton look like a pretty formidable defensive team, and when he's not, they look absolutely lost defensively. And Michael Keane cost them £30 million. And yet when he plays instead of the fella that cost them, I think, 1.5 million, they look like a League Two defence. And I wouldn't have Branthwaite in just to highlight the difference that he does make and just how good he might become someday. Right, into midfield then, Karl. What shape do you want to go with? Because I think we will go with a uniform shape. Do you want to go 4-3-3? Do you want to go 4-2-3-1? Do you want to go 4-4-2?
4-3-3. Yeah.
Right. Give me your three midfielders then.
I'm hesitant about recency bias, but I think Kovacic obviously has stepped up a lot in Rodri's absence. But there was also a game at the start of the season he was like particularly poor in and sort of taken out of the team. I'm not sure if it was 2 midweek games afterwards. We've had 2 really good starters ourselves at the absolute minimum. I think Carlos Balmer is probably one of the really, really strong standout players from, should we say, middle table teams, if you're looking outside. I really like the role that Kulusevski's playing at Tottenham as well, like really driving on from deep into the channels midfielder. But I find it tough to look beyond Alexis McAllister just for the absolute quality that he has on the ball. The absolute sort of consistency in his game is really, really good. I think Caicedo has been improved at Chelsea as well.
Yeah, he's been really good.
Much stronger start. But again, if you're looking at someone who's played probably 4 or 5 times really well already, Amadou Onana's probably got to be in there.
He's in mine. Yeah. I think he's been monstrous.
So I'd probably have to go for Onana, McAllister. Oh, hard to pick a third one, to be honest. You've got your 3 already?
Those are in mine. Those 2 are in mine. Onana and McAllister. I think they've both been outstanding. The third spot is the one I have a little bit of trouble with. Now, we have a contender in Gravenberch, but I do think he's had a couple of poor games. I think he's had a couple of games as well where he was good in one half and not so good in the other. Kovacic, I think, is absolutely a fair shout. I think he's been very good for the most part. Caicedo's been good. Baliba's been good.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
By the time you're finished listening to this Pepsi Zero Sugar, you'll be 15 seconds closer to kickoff. Stock up now. Bengals game day is so close, you can almost taste it. Bengals watching. Better with Pepsi.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You might say all kinds of stuff when things go wrong, but these are the words you really need to remember. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. They've got options to fit your unique insurance needs, meaning you can talk to your agent to choose the coverage you need, have coverage options to protect the things you value most, file a claim right on the State Farm mobile app, and even reach a real person when you need to talk to someone. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
I'm Carol from Sunbury, Ohio. I'm a Republican, but I don't care who does the job as long as the job gets done. That's why I like Sherrod Brown. He stood up to both parties on China. and worked with Republicans to fight fentanyl because Sherrod fights for Ohio. That's leadership.
Paid for by Friends of Sherrod Brown.
I think you could look at Fulham, considering the fact that they lost arguably their best midfielder, maybe you could say even their best player in the summer when Paulinho left. And I think you look at their midfield, I think Sasa Lukic has been quite good. I think Andreas Pereira is worth consideration. I think he's been really, really good for Fulham. And Fulham have had a really good start. They're in 8th position. And he's learning a new role, deeper in midfield, having to do a lot more dog work. I think I'm tempted to go Andreas Pereira of Fulham.
You go with him. And for difference, I will go with Mario Lemina.
Oh, that's a great shout. Now, his team are wank, but there's no denying that lad is putting in every single bit he has into every single game. One other player I want to highlight here. Now, he sometimes plays as a winger, sometimes plays a bit more centrally. Just want to mention him because I think very quietly in a dreadful team, I think this guy week in, week out is putting in really good performances. Is Dwight McNeil. I think he's the only player at Everton who can look at the last 7 games and say, I've done my part. I've given everything I have. I've driven this team forward. I love seeing him pick the ball up in central areas and just ghost past people. He doesn't have great pace, but he's got phenomenal balance. He moves defenders out of his way with little feints and head nods. And his passing is good. His crossing is exceptional. He's got a really good shot on him. I think Dwight McNeil is very quietly under the radar, had a very good season so far. It's only 7 games, admittedly, but just wanted to mention him. Right, front three. It feels like it feels like there's nobody that's been consistently good across the 7 games. Like everybody's had a shocker or 2. Or am I wrong?
No, I think that's probably right. It's a bit of a small number of games for nobody to have shown good form, but you do expect, obviously, a lot of variance in forwards' performances because how effective they are, obviously, is based so much on how good the service to them is and all the rest of it. So it's difficult, obviously, to not say Haaland just because of, he's obviously scored about 300 goals already this season, and that's ridiculous. And I think it's long since been accepted by certainly everybody at Man City that even if he doesn't play well, if he doesn't contribute, if he's still scoring twice in a game and you win, they don't care. That's what he's there for. So I think he kind of has to be honest, or at least he is in mine.
I think that's fair. He's got 10 goals in the league so far. He has had he's probably had 3 pretty poor games.
Yeah.
But he scored 10 goals ultimately.
I think Kai Havertz has been probably the best centre forward in the league this season in terms of game-to-game performances. But I can't pick Havertz over Haaland when Haaland's already in double figures.
No, that's
nonsense.
Like you, I think Kai has been very good this year. I'll go Haaland as well, though. I do think you have to go with him. Guy's right. I think João Pedro was playing exceptionally well for Brighton. Again, doesn't have the goal numbers of Haaland, but based on a performance level, I might have been able to make a proper argument for him. I think Kai has had a couple of really quiet games, and then he's popped up with a goal. Like the weekend, for example, against Southampton, he wasn't good, and then he pops up with that big equalising goal, and then from there he plays well. Whereas with Haaland can score a goal, can be playing badly, score a goal, go back to playing badly, and then score another goal. It'd be awful for 89 minutes of a game, but end up with 2 goals and walk away with man of the match because, that's the currency of goals. Who else would you go with then? Who are your wide forwards to play either side of Erling Haaland?
So obviously, by a similar token, you might be looking at just output. But I think with the wide forwards, because there's nobody who's far and away scoring more than everyone else, you can look a bit more sort of holistically at all-round performances, impacting the team. Where are they against their own normal form levels? So for that reason, I wouldn't pick Salah. I think he's had a couple too many quiet matches. And I think Antoine Semenyo, who's playing from the same side, has been ridiculous, to be quite honest. He's just so impactful for them all the time. He seems to have found the consistency in his game that was very, very much not there before. So I think I'd go with Semenyo on the right side. And I really don't know after that. Diaz obviously had a magnificent start from the left, and if it was 2 games ago, it would have been him. But after the last 2 games, will they still pick him? I might well do, to be fair, because I'm not sure anyone else has been that good for that many matches yet.
So this is where I got stumped as well, because I started looking at left wingers, and City, there's been multiple left wingers, and neither of them have been consistently good. Martinelli hasn't been consistently good. Chelsea have chopped and changed their left wing position. Villa have chopped and changed. Brighton have had Matoma, who's been good in, I think, probably 4 games, and then had 3 where he wasn't so good. I think it's worth pointing out that Harvey Barnes is playing well for Newcastle and has been their best forward this year, in part because Isak has had injuries, but he's hugely outperforming Anthony Gordon and has taken Anthony Gordon's role as the left winger and forced Gordon over to the right side, where he's not nearly as good. So when I went through the left wingers, I couldn't really find one that I was willing to say, yeah, he's the one. I think for right wing, there's a bunch of different options. I think you could go Bukayo Saka.
Yeah.
You could go Brian Mbeumo. A lot of people would say Cole Palmer. I don't think Cole Palmer is actually playing all that well this season.
Also, he's played as a 10 almost every match.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the reason he's not in my team, to be honest. I'm not playing as a 10. So
I just don't think he's been particularly good. I think he's had a couple of big output games. I don't think game to game he's been consistent. Now, the guy I'm going to pick I think he's played once on the left wing, and he does primarily play as the 10, but I'm going to go Morgan Rogers. So I just want him in the team. I think he's been really good for Villa. So I'm going to go Semenyo, Haaland, and Rogers.
Semenyo as well.
Yeah, I do have Semenyo. I think Semenyo is probably the Bournemouth player that's, like, if you look at the signings they've made over the last couple of years, they spent a lot of money and they've bought a lot of young players that came in with quite a bit of hype. And a lot of them have done well. He came in from Bristol City for, I think, around 10 or 12 million, kind of an under-the-radar signing for them. And I think he's just gotten consistently better as time has gone on. And every time I watch Bournemouth play now, I'm fascinated by him. And every time he gets the ball, I kind of feel like something's going to happen. He's a good dribbler. He's big. He's strong. He's quick. He's powerful. He's got enough of a burst to beat players in short space as well and get his shot away. He shoots 2-footed, and I really like that as well. So I think I would go with him. I think he's been really good. The only other player, and I wouldn't have him in because he hasn't been consistently good across the 7 games. I just want to mention him because he's playing in a garbage team. But every time I watch Southampton and I see Tyler Dibbling play, I think this kid is special, like really, really special. Yeah. Every time he gets the ball, I think something's going to happen. And then I watch him work off the ball. And against Arsenal at the weekend, there was a ball played over the top, I think off a Southampton set piece, and Martinelli was the counter-attack. The ball got launched to Martinelli, and it was Dibbling who went with him. And he didn't just match pace for pace with Martinelli, which I didn't think he had that type of pace. He out-sprinted Martinelli, got in front of him, and cleared the situation up, and it was late in the game as well.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the new Prologue EV, there's a lot that could impress you about it. There's the class-leading passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
And I just thought this kid has everything. And he can play wing, he can play as a 10. I think you could play him in a front 2. I think he's going to be a very, very special talent. And I've said this a couple of times on social media, if I'm Liverpool, I'm locking Mo down for multiple years, and I'm going in the summer, and I'm going to Southampton and saying, what will it take to get that kid? And I'm getting him to bring in and develop as my successor to Mo. He may never be the goal scorer Mo is, but I think he'll have the goal scoring knack and the creative knack to be a big time producer from that position. And he has the off ball work. And then now I know he has that elite level pace as well. Like, he's ticking a lot of boxes at a very young age. I think he's special. So just wanted to mention him. But yeah, I would go Semenyo, Haaland and Morgan Rogers. I agree with you on Diaz. If it had been after the first 4 or 5 games, he'd be in. The last 2 haven't been great.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Rodgers has been excellent, and yeah, he has played left side when they've had a couple of injuries, and I think Bailey was out the weekend, and Maatsen was only fit for the bench, and so on. So yeah, he's definitely has started left at least once, if not a couple of times. I think he's been brilliant. Not the same kind of attacker at all as the ones we discussed in terms of shooting and all that, but his ball carrying, his turning on the ball is just outrageous. His first 5 yards into space is the best. Like, that's proper the business. That's the first thing that you look for in some player who can go to a much, much higher level, is how they use that first bit of space, how they turn away from the first bit of trouble, and he is excellent at that.
So now the question, Mr. Matchett, player by player, can they keep this level of form up across the course of the season? So we've both gone David Raya in goal. I think we saw last year with David Raya a very consistent level. He did have a couple of shaky games, but ultimately the best defensive record in the league last year. I think it's fair to say he can keep this level up across the course of the year.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Again, we have to say, obviously, a large part of this is dependent on how good your defence is across the course of the year. Again, Arsenal tick that box in that they've already shown they can be very, very strong and match performance after performance after performance in that regard. If anything, even more this year, because they seem to be more focused on the defence than anything else. So I would say largely yes. Raya, literally himself, maybe you could say. I think he's just having a quick look here. I think he's probably just about borderline and slightly better than saves to XG conceded. So, he's kind of in line and a little bit better. So, if anything, if you want him to be an elite goalkeeper, you want him to get even slightly better, or at least the same consistency across the year will, over the whole year, make that an elite level number. So, yeah, I think he's capable of doing that.
We should point out, we're not saying he's the best goalkeeper in the league, just that he's having the best season so far. And the primary reason is Ali's had a couple of injuries, and also Ali's had a little bit less to do. So that's a big marker for our 2 centre-backs. But Raya is playing very well. I would say, personally, I would have Alisson, Emi Martinez, and I'd probably have Vicario ahead of him if I was ranking goalkeepers. But I think Raya's, I think he's performing at the most consistent level. You mentioned Martinez had a couple of poor ones, so has Vicario. Right, into defence then. I don't think Ola Aina can keep this level of performance up across the full season because we haven't seen him do it. I think he's a very good fullback. I've long mentioned him as a player we should have brought in as a backup. I thought before the emergence of Bradley, Aina as the backup to Trent would have made some sense, just to give you a solid presence there, give you a bit more of a defensive presence as well late in games, or when we were moving Trent into midfield, if they wanted to make that a thing that they did regularly, and you wanted to still have a proper traditional right back. But I don't think he's capable of 38 games at this level, so I would say no on him. But I would say yes on the other three. I think Ibu, Virgil, and Gvardiol are all capable of continuing this level for the remainder of the season.
I would agree, although I would also say that with Konate, he has to prove that.
He has to prove he can stay fit.
Yeah. Yep, that's fine and fair, but regardless, even if he does have a little spell out, he still has to come back and be immediately on it. That's the mark that we want.
What are your back for then?
I think Gabriel again, yes. We said about Arsenal and Arsenal's defence, it's pretty much the standard that they set for themselves at the minute, so I don't see that that's going to have an enormous drop-off. Maybe he's more likely, and Konate's more likely, and Gvardiol's more likely to drop off for some games than Van Dijk is. Just that's a consequence of being the best. That's where you measure against. But I don't think it would be anything dramatic. And at left back, I've completely forgotten who I've picked.
You picked Tete at right back.
Oh, Digne, Luca Digne. Yeah, like you say, level. Yeah, he's not playing like exceptional Ballon d'Or kind of level. So yes, of course he can still match it. I don't think he will for the whole season because he's the type of player who doesn't. But not that he'll be terrible or anything. He'll just be fine.
And Tete?
Probably not.
Okay. Into midfield then. I think Alexis can play at this level the remainder of the season. I absolutely do. I think he's just consistently very, very good. So I think he can. Onana, I have some doubts because we haven't seen it. But he's about to get a huge boost in midfield in that Boubacar Kamara is coming back.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at anfieldindexpro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, anfieldindexpro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.